Games don't just look like movies anymore. They feel like them. But not just because of graphics. It's about storytelling, cinematography, emotional weight, and most importantly, control. Today I want to break down why games like The Last of Us, God of War, and Ghost of Tsushima aren't just like movies. There's something Hollywood wishes it could be. A story you don't just watch, but a story that you live. Let's start with storytelling. These games don't just tell good stories, they use the language of cinema. Camera angles that mirror Spielberg or Kurosawa, long unbroken takes, thoughtful lighting and framing that's straight out of Hollywood's playbook. In The Last of Us, notice how the camera stays close to Joel's face during emotional moments, letting you sit with his pain. In Ghost of Tsushima, they literally have a Kurosawa mode, turning the game into a black and white samurai epic. These aren't just games inspired by movies, they're participating in cinematic craft. But a pretty frame is nothing without emotional depth. What sets these games apart is how deeply they hurt. In The Last of Us, it's not about zombies, it's about grief, revenge, and love that breaks people apart. In God of War, Kratos isn't just killing monsters, he's learning to be a father. In Ghost of Tsushima, it's about honor versus survival, how far you'll go to protect what matters, even if it means becoming someone you don't recognize. Games like these hurt because you're not just watching the pain, you're carrying it with you in every step. And that brings me to what movies can't do. Interactivity. When you press that button, when you choose whether to spare or kill, that's you. That's where these stories hit differently. It's your hands on the story. Every little choice deepens your connection to the characters. Even just walking feels loaded with meaning. Hollywood's emotional depth ends when the credits roll. Gaming's emotional depth begins the moment you pick up the controller. Choice matters, and not just the big save the world or not choices, but the small human choices. In Ghost of Tsushima, do you fight with honor or do what it takes to win? In The Last of Us Part 2, can you forgive when everything inside you wants revenge? These aren't just choices, they're reflections of you. In a film, the character chooses. In a cinematic game, you choose. Finally, realism. It's not just about 4K textures or ray tracing. It's the feel of the world, the crunch of the footsteps in the snow in The Last of Us Part 2, the distant thunder in Ghost of Tsushima, the way Kratos subtly flinches when someone talks about his past. It's immersive not because it looks real, but because it feels lived in. Games weren't always seen as art, but that debate is long over. Take Red Dead Redemption 2. Rockstar crafted a world where every frame could be a painting, every conversation a character study, and unlike film, its story unfolds at the player's pace, letting you soak in the weight of Arthur's journey. The choices aren't just written, they're lived. Hollywood has Hans Zimmer, gaming has Bear McCreary, Gustavo Santaolalla, and composers who shape entire worlds with sound. And Hellblade proves sound matters. The game's use of binaural audio Whispered voices that move around your head makes you feel Senua's psychosis instead of just understanding it. No movie can replicate that level of immersion. Because sound in gaming isn't just heard, it's experienced. When gaming meets Hollywood level performance capture, you get Death Stranding. Hideo Kojima didn't just cast Norman Reedus and Mads Mikkelsen for star power. He used their entire performances to create characters who feel more human than most movie protagonists. Their expressions, body language, the subtleties of their movements. Gaming isn't copying film, it's advancing it. These games don't just rival Hollywood, they surpass it because they give you something movies can't. A role, a choice, a burden, a world to walk in, shape, and sometimes break. Games aren't just interactive movies. There's something new. Cinema you don't just watch. Cinema you live. Let me know your favorite cinematic game down below. I could go on for hours about this stuff, but I want to hear your picks. If you enjoyed this, subscribe for more deep dives into storytelling, gaming, and the places they collide. And remember, thank you for giving me your time today. Peace.